folks. Good morning.
Good morning. It's December 26th, 2021, the day after Christmas.
Santa's gone home.
And our title today is After Christmas, How Then Shall We Live? And my purpose of that title and our title is, how then can we keep the Christmas spirit going throughout the year? I know that's a question that comes up a lot, but it particularly came up strongly for me this year because I was so happy this Christmas. So, and still am today, the day after.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with her. I'm hoping at last. It seems to be a good thing.
I'm going to start with a reading from Ernest Holmes. I'm in the book 365, and it's about receiving, which is a nice topic around Christmas time. And the Bible quote is Matthew 7:7. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. And Ernest says, how can we receive that which the mind refuses to entertain? Shall we not then consciously develop the ability to receive more? We make life little and mean and limit our own possibilities when we refuse to accept the whole gift of God. We should open our consciousness to a receptivity of the divine. There will never be any point of saturation because God is infinite. We cannot contract the infinite, but we can expand the finite, meaning our own minds and expectations. So the affirmative prayer is this, and I invite you to say it with me. Today, I ask and know that I shall receive. Today, I seek and know that I shall find. Today, I knock and know that it shall be opened unto me. But what is it that I ask for? What is it that I really seek? It is to discover God in everything, to see the divine manifest in everyone, to come into close and conscious communion with life. Today, then, I receive the gift of God in its fullness, unstinted, complete. And so it is.
Okay.
So why don't you start by sharing your thoughts about how then shall we live?
Well, one of the first things that I thought about when I thought about this topic was how often we're not able to live in the present because we are still actually either living in the past, using the past as the measuring device to consider whether the present is really a good time or not a good time, or we're living with the frustration that the past is not being created on an ongoing basis. And so what I really became aware of at a deeper level was our inability to live in the present moment. I've heard a lot about, living in the present moment, be present with, and a lot of times for me that has simply been, okay, I think I understand it, but how do you do that? Well, the insight that I had was one of the ways you do it is to recognize when you're actually going over the past, when you're actually spending your time comparing or using the past as your reference for the moment. And watching my wife do this thing here. Okay, are we okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if we were able to separate ourselves from the past and the comparisons and actually live in the present, if we had amnesia about our past, we could borrow from it, but we had amnesia, we would be very different in our ability to be creative and our ability to savor and enjoy what's true right now. I think a sad example of that is that very often we look back at our youth as the good time when we had bodies that were healthier and we had more possibilities available to us in ways that we don't as we get older. But what we have as we get older are ways that are possible that we didn't have when we were younger. And so what we don't often see is the present moment and all that we bring to it. What we see is the past and how probably we can't have that again, or it's not going to be as good. Well, don't you remember when, and you hear this comment, don't you remember when, and people light up. And what I'd love to be able to do is just, don't you remember the now? And can't we embrace that more? Can't we set aside our cynicism and our criticalness of ourselves and of other people and embrace the moment. And I think it's difficult to do that given how much we rely on the past when we say we're living in the present.
Yes, I was reading this morning a Seth book, and Seth was saying that exuberance and joy are just a natural part of life, of being alive. Exuberance and joy. And so we might ask ourselves, well, then how do we let that exuberance and joy escape us sometimes? And it's by doing just that, thinking of the not so good times, thinking of so-called failures, thinking of disappointments, thinking of things we can't do anymore, but physically or perhaps opportunity wise. And all of that brings your natural exuberance and joy down.
Mhm.
But if you're just looking at the life force in you, which is God, it's full of exuberance and joy.
Right.
So we might ask ourselves, how do we interfere with that? How do we, and also Seth was saying that that is what creates wellness and wholeness, because it's your body knows how to heal itself. Your body knows exactly what to do to heal itself with exuberance and joy.
Right.
And one of the worst things we can do is name a condition, because all conditions can be very temporary and passing. But we give it a name, a dis-ease, a thing that may be curable or incurable, all of which is nonsense. Everything is passing, everything is in flux. We make a mistake if we ever judge something as permanent.
Right.
Or judge it by the physical, because the creativity doesn't start with the physical. That's what it's long past. It starts first in mind, in imagination, in thought. And so if we're anything less than exuberant and joyous, it's because we're interrupting the natural way of things.
You were reading this morning to me some Byron Katie work, and as you were reading it, I suddenly was flashback to watching my son when he was very, very little. And my son had his foot in his hand, and it's easier actually in both hands. And he had brought his foot up to his face, and he was looking at it, and he was looking at his toes, and he was looking at his foot, and he was just fascinated with his foot. And I think we've lost that fascination. We've lost the willingness to be fascinated by the parts that work.
Oh, we can't get our feet up into our mouths anyway.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that, because that's one of my wishes, one of my hopes after I take a shower. But the difficulty with us is that we forget to pay attention to the little things to the point where we get fascinated again.
Exactly.
And I think that fascination is part of the youthfulness. I've seen it, and I know you've all seen the animal videos, but I love it when you see the little.
These closer,
right.
because I keep going in and out.
I know.
I
keep seeing the little goats, baby goats, and they run and they just jump, and they jump just because they can. And I think about dogs and puppies when they run in circles as fast as they can. I say, now that's not practical. You're not going to get anything doing that. That doesn't make, don't you know better than that? And they said, I don't have to know better than I have the energy. I have the exuberance. And so I think
I don't get dizzy when I do it.
Right. So part of what we're talking about is finding that exuberance for life, and maybe ignoring what you know and ignoring the naming of everything that you know, and then writing it off and saying, what if this were all new to me? What if the things in my life were new to me and I were able to explore them for the first time? And I'd recommend you walk around your house or your condo or your motorhome or wherever you're living, and look at everything and ask yourself, how would I see this if I were seeing it for the very first time? And look at life. And if you could have 1 hour of looking at your life for the very first time, you would be renewing your life.
Speaking of looking at things, Ernest Holmes said this once in something he wrote for the Science of Mind magazine in January of 1991. He said, there is a light and life at the center of all things, and a consciousness that responds. This imprisoned splendor, to the eyes that perceive it, bursts like the glory of a new dawn. To those who perceive it, So there's a life and light at the center of all things. And it's always changing and it's always creating. I was thinking this morning as Bob and I came up with a new idea for marketing his art that we're excited about. I thought, wow, it's interesting that necessity truly is the mother of all invention, because we were thinking about conditions and how could we make them better. And I don't think we would have come up with the idea if we didn't think it was necessary.
Mhm.
So, we have a tendency to think that need is bad or lack is bad, but it's not when it's the impetus for you're coming up with solution. You're coming up for an answer.
I'm not sure we would have come up with fire had we not gotten cold.
Precisely. That's
Yeah.
exactly. So if we can stay out of judgment about what is and just always know that we're always creative, as the Bible quote said, God is always giving. It's always giving. Can we receive? Can we open up our receptivity to receive our good? Because it's there for us if we can receive it.
Mhm.
And so that's how I think we can keep the spirit going throughout the year. I think what happens is, everybody has a great time in the holidays and it's like, oh, the holidays are over. And now we have to clean up the mess and pack up the Christmas decorations. If you celebrate Christmas, perhaps yours was Hanukkah, or not. But then we said, now we have to get serious again. Now we have to get down to business.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have to start collecting our data for income tax information, put away all the old files of last year. And part of that is good. Part of that is good organization and putting away the past. But part of it we can make into a chore, an unpleasant chore
Mhm.
that we have to do. And our suggestion here is that we look for the light of a new dawn. It's a new year. Let's make it.
Yeah. We even changed some of the words, like I have to get back to work, so I have to get back to joy. I
Mm,
have to get back to doing, I have to get back to creating. And what are you creating? Well, I'm creating a better workplace. I was thinking of a spiritual man who was also an artist who was imprisoned. And they asked him what he wanted, because he could have some things, but not others. And he said, I would like paint and a paintbrush if I could have that. And they thought about it and they said, okay, you can have paint and a paintbrush. And he painted a large open door on the wall of his cell. And they said, how stupid is
great.
that? Painting an open door, you're locked up. He said, not every day I go through that door. And every day I go out into space and every day I go out into the world. And you can seemingly lock me up, but I refuse to be hemmed in by appearances. And I think we're locked in prison by appearances. And the
Yeah.
appearances are projections. They're not things that are solid. And so they got unhappy. They became unhappy with him because he seemed to be so happy now that he could come and go as he pleased. And they thought he had a mental disorder, and I thought he found some sort of mental order.
Exactly. And even when we go through challenges and hard times, we have to remember that our journeys include both the agony
Yeah.
and the ecstasy. They include both, and both are for our own good. This is a quote from Michael Beckwith, and I love it. He says, the theme is the gift of a new journey. Remember what yourself has always known about you and how moment by moment it tenderly escorts you into the luminous and seemingly dark places where with a courageous heart you walk the hero's journey, the spiritual warrior's journey, the Christ's journey, the Buddha's journey to awakened awareness. It's by Michael Beckwith.
Awakened awareness.
Awakened awareness.
You could spend some of your time asking yourself, am I awake? And if I am awake, how is it I'm seeing the world? Because I think often we're sleeping in the past, and as opposed to being awake to the moment. And we need to, sometimes we're startled, something happens, and all of a sudden we become present again. But the question is, how could we startle ourselves a little more often? How could we startle ourselves into the moment? And I'm convinced, and I don't know that it's true, but I'm convinced that one of the reasons that people stand in long, long lines to get on scary rides, amusement
It's very
parks,
nice.
is because they want to be scared present. They want to be scared into the moment. They don't know how to get into the moment, and they need the fright part of it. And I think the same thing is true for a lot of horror movies, is that I need to be frightened into being awake. Oh, I love how I feel when I'm alert and my senses are all turned on. We need to learn how to turn ourselves on without the use of drugs, to being present.
Mhm.
So I want to take it back to, though, that this is all about how do I create the season of joy that Christmas gives us a model for. Now, what Christmas does and what holidays typically do is they give us little markers to tell us you need to be joyful now. There's music in the background that says joyful. We have lots of little aids that help us remember that Christmas is
Right,
underway.
we have sparkly things up, we have candles lit,
Yeah, we
bring trees into our house.
right, which is a little foolish, but we have sensory markers, though, that wake us up. So
Right, yeah.
the question is, how could you create more sensory markers? One of the things I'm not going to do this year that I've done in the years past is I'm not going to put away the artificial candle that we have that has artificial light that looks like real light. But I'm going to leave it up, and I'm going to turn it on every night when it gets dark, so we can have that flickering light. And the reason for that is because when we take out all the symbols, we take out all the awakenings to the present and to joy, we lose joy.
Right, and the reason that we do all these things is this holiday was created this time because this was the bleakest time of the year for
Yeah.
most people. It's the darkest time of the year, it's the coldest time of the year, not where we live, fortunately, but in places where this holiday began, it was the bleakest, coldest, darkest, most miserable time of the
Yeah.
year. No fruit was available. It was a tough time of year.
I'm getting
So
depressed just hearing about it.
so we create, lights and gift giving and sparklies and songs and goodies. Oh my gosh, the food. And we create the best time of the year. So we can create the best time of the year anytime we choose.
Mhm. And we really, it's a requirement for your aliveness. And so just like you go to a health club or you go to a spa or you go to a place to exercise, we need to create within our space a mental spa, a place for
Mm.
us that we can say, this is where I go to create. And this is my place for creating, which is one of the reasons that I encourage people, if they haven't already done this, to look around your living room, look around your living space, and ask yourself, when you look around that space, what is it that I see that brings me joy? What is it that I see that wakes me up to my unique creative nature? What is it that inspires me? And if there's nothing in your environment that does that, then maybe you can get a picture of something that does. Maybe you could begin looking at things that you could bring into your environment that would tell you that this is something worth doing. Life is worth living. And so you could post some of the affirmative statements on the mirror that you look into so that you can see yourself and look into the statement as well. But we need, unfortunately, because of the intensity of the world that we live in, we need little markers. We need little wake up calls all along the way. A candle, a photograph of somebody that you love that you actually look at.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, our home is decorated with lots and lots of things that I've collected over the years because I'm an artist. But every one of those things, and I look at these things, the ceramics and the art pieces, and I think about the beauty that they have. They express beauty. They express joy. If you're there for it.
And Ernest Holmes talks about, and in the first Science of Mind textbook,
Mm.
which was printed in 1926,
26.
26, and it's different from the existing textbook. But he's talking about seeing beyond what can be seeing. He says, "This I saw, or else some inner presence made it known to me. The universe is filled with life. The air, the sky, the sea teem with intelligence, with majesty and might, and deep within me, some subtle inner sight beholds and sees, comprehends and knows the all. It neither fears nor falters. but answers the divine call to be as one beyond the bounds of time and space, to overcome the bondage of the human race, and leap with trust undaunted, free into the depths of that infinite sea, whose waters, calm, are ready to receive those who in simple faith believe.
Wow.
Wow, isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful, beautifully written. And if it's not in the newer version of the Science of Mind book,
That's a loss.
it should,
Yeah.
it's a loss, yeah.
It is, it's a loss.
But so quotes, poetry, music, eye-to-eye contact, all of which can wake us up, bring us joy. This morning when we get on 15 minutes ahead of time to get everything squared away. And I so love having somebody come on we haven't seen in a week and saying something to them and then seeing them light up, seeing their smile. It just brings great joy to me. So how can we see each other's light? How can we invite each other to share their light? You know, the best part of my day this morning so far was seeing your light and then seeing the light of the people that come on the screen with us. And we're here for that. You know, we need to be here for that. We need to be able to be willing to see that light if we want to have the light in our own life be expressed.
Right. And we need to remember that this exuberance and joy is your natural state. It's
Yeah.
the natural state of life.
If
And
if as soon as you're injured, any kind of injury, your body utilizes all of its resources to begin the healing process, then, and it does, then it is our nature to heal. So it is our nature to see aliveness. It is our nature to see joy. It is our nature to see love and to experience and express it. If that's our nature, then we're not going against it when we start looking for good in all the right places, which is any place that you are.
Exactly. Exactly. So as you think of this this new year, it is the gift of a new journey.
Yeah.
If you choose to make it so. So you might ask, what would be a new journey for me in this next year? How can I make it joyous, exuberant, abundant? How can I receive more? Am I willing to receive more good, more love, more life, more health, more wealth?
If there's anything in your environment, in your house, in your apartment, in your condo that offends you, that bothers you, get a box and put it in a box and put it in a closet or give it away. And if there's any space that you've got that's not being utilized for something that would bring you joy, then put something that would bring you joy in that space. And we're talking about creating more space for the joy you want to have and you want to see and you want to experience. And if you do that, your life will have more joy in it. I'm reminded of when my son was very, very little, and we hung a mobile over his crib. And it was really interesting to watch him laying on his back, looking up at it as it would turn and enjoying it. We created something that stimulated his mind to create in a very passive way. Maybe we each need a mobile and hung somewhere in our place that we can look at to be fascinated by, or a kaleidoscope, something. So, and I know I'm stressing this a lot today, but you know, there's a lot of messages that we're getting, sirens that I hear, news reports that I hear, things that I see on TV that are all inclined toward life is getting tough and it's going to get worse.
Right. And if you believe that, you'll
Yeah.
you'll have trouble finding the exuberance and joy.
Yeah. For all the conversation about COVID and how dangerous it is and how worrisome we need to be about it, we forget that our nature is to heal.
Right.
Our nature is to thrive. And if we would allow our nature to thrive, it doesn't mean we won't do everything we can to support our health and well-being, from diet to medications or medicines or whatever we believe will be ethical and has efficacy in daily living. But it means we don't depend on those things first. Our first thing that we depend on is our consciousness.
It definitely is. So let's close with a prayer, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's ask ourselves then, how then shall we live in this gift of a new journey.
Right.
So we go within and recognize that the power and presence is always of the infinite divine, that is everywhere present. It is present within every cell of our body, within every thought that we think, with every part of our bodies, with every part of our life. All of life is imbued with the spirit and the energy and the generosity of God or the divine.
So we say to ourselves, there is no place that God is not. There is no spot where God is not. If I turn around and I look around and I look carefully, what I see is God expressing in everything around me and in everything that I do, even when appearances would suggest otherwise. So I am willing now to see God in me as me, flowing through me. I am willing now to heal in all the ways that healing is necessary, required, and desired. I am willing to say yes to the highest and the best that is for me. And I know that as I say yes, the universe applauds that yes and agrees with me and supports me, encourages and empowers me.
We know this to be so. We give great thanks. We release this idea, this treatment to the mind of God. And together we say,
And so it is.
so it is. And so also for those of you who would want to do so,
And we strongly encourage it.
we are inviting you now to support this ministry. We are the Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches. So CSL, Center for Spiritual Living, palmbeaches.org is our website. And we invite you to go there if you want to and donate to support this ministry and the work that we do with our messages and classes and other things that we do. You will see when you click on ways to donate, it's right here, that you have ways that you may donate. And we know that those of you watching us right now do so regularly, and we
appreciate
thank you
it.
so much. And so
We are here because you support us.
So we will stop this now and we will end the recording. And I'm finding out where to do it. Here we go. Recording.